Welcome back. It is Victory Sunday here at Under Construction here in Charlotte. 704. What's good? Rock Hill, Gastonia, Salisbury, everybody. Welcome back to this latest installment of Under Construction. I am your host for this week, Jamal, the radio star Darby. Guys, hold on. Hey, guys, hold on real quick. Hold on. I'm sorry, I can't do it right now. I have something else going. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. That was my agent on the line. I'm sorry. To the top right, we have Mr. Kaiser Sose. What's going on, sir?
Little cigar again this week.
There you go. Keep it rolling, man. Rodney, and to my top left, we have Mr. Rodney Rod Pops Richardson. What's going on, brother?
Hey, man, I've never been more happy to be wrong.
It's you and me both, man. So, guys, in case you're under a rock or you're just tuning in, we are celebrating the Panthers' victory over the Atlanta Falcons, 23-16. A game where we almost pulled on Atlanta, but we took what we won, and we will take a win any day of the week. Teddy Bridgewater, 27 for 37, 313 yards, 116 rating. Guys, who wants to go first on just overall impressions of the game?
So I got a question for you guys. What does this date mean to you? December 28th, 2014.
Is that the last time we won in Atlanta?
Correct. That is the last time we won in Atlanta. I'm going to say this. Ron Rivera was the son of Dan Quinn during the last part of his tenure. And it's actually refreshing to see this new regime facilitate the growth of the young guys, man. I really love seeing the defense play today, especially in the first half. And then Teddy Bridgewater, man, Mr. Dink and Dunk, man. Look, you got my respect, dude. That was a beautiful game, beautiful play calling.
Much agreed. Kaiser, what you got?
I picked us to win last week, so I'm
only one. Look, you are Negro Damas, man. Keep it rolling, brother. But go ahead, bro.
I mean, a solid game. The only fault that I really have is twofold. Field goals at the beginning of the game kind of doomed us. The Panthers should have had a lot more than 23 points. We should have at least scored 30, honestly. And in the third quarter, we went into like this prevent mode really, really early. I don't know if they felt like they were protecting a 7-point lead or they just thought, okay, the Falcons suck. We can just kind of sit. I don't know what was going on there, but they only had 50 yards of offense throughout the entire third quarter. And thank God Matt Ryan got old today. And threw a pick that we wouldn't have seen him throw against us. In the past, that would have been a touchdown against us. So, but otherwise, I thought the Panthers were really solid on both sides of the ball. It's amazing that thanks to Matt Ryan throwing a pick and Tom Brady not knowing what down it is, we now share the division lead with Tampa Bay. That's kind of incredible. No one would have predicted that at the beginning of the
season. Nobody, man. Nobody. Jamal, so what are your takeaways from the game, man?
Number one, man, it feels really good to be wrong. And it feels really good to win. And quite honestly, man, I don't want to be a killjoy. I don't want to sound like I am, but it's not a win that I'm overly impressed with, only because I feel like I did not realize how terrible Atlanta was. And also, I don't like the fact that we just kind of let our foot off the gas in the second half. The first half was amazing, man. We were up 20-7. Teddy Bridgewater has like 160 something yards at halftime and 2 touchdowns. The defense is what really caught my eye in the first half. That defense was spry. It was fast. It took control over the line of scrimmage in the second quarter, but then it just totally reverted in the second half, man. And that continues that remains being a concern of mine, man, is controlling that line of scrimmage and defensive consistency. But at the same time, that's probably what we expect this season out of this young defense. Overall, look, man, it's hard winning in the NFL. A win in the NFL, you take it any way you can get it. A win is a win, and I'll take it. But I'm not, like, overly impressed by it, to tell you the truth.
So, Jamal, I got an important question for you. Are we rivals again?
I'm glad you brought that up. So, So when I made my radio debut on ESPN 730 this weekend, vast I heard of Carolina Blitz asked me, "Is this a rivalry? Has it been a rivalry? And is it still a rivalry?" And my answer was, well, usually when you call yourselves rivals, you have to actually win a couple of games. Being that we finally won a game in Atlanta, and for the first time since 14, it's safe to say it's a rivalry. It's a rivalry again, man. I'll give that a thumbs up.
Got you.
I got a question for y'all. We've been here before. We were here last season. Lost the first 2 games of the season. Kyle Allen goes beast mode. The Panthers win 4 in a row. They lead the division. Does this feel any different than last season? Because we are under construction thought that was a bit of a smokescreen.
Yeah,
we didn't think the Panthers were as good as their record indicated when they were 4-2. They were 2 after beating Tampa Bay last season. Do we feel that way this year? What's the difference in them being 3-2 last season at this point and them being 3-2 this season at this point?
I say the to me it's a whole different feel. We have a totally new coaching staff, and then to me our young guys are getting better each week, especially on the actual defensive end. And we're also doing this without CMC. Side note, our offensive line today, man, I have to give it up to them. We didn't allow a sack.
Absolutely.
And we had a positive game today, man. And like this team this year is a younger team. Last year was full of older guys on the back end of their primes, and you could feel the difference this year. They may not win 6 games, but I'm in a better place with this organization this year as opposed to last year.
One reason it feels different for me is you can already tell within the division we're better. And I think that's pretty obvious. While we're trending in a younger direction, everyone else in the division is pretty much trending in an older direction. And that to me makes a hell of a difference when it comes to this season in particular. It also feels differently, man, because it feels like this coaching staff coaches a lot differently than the Ron Rivera era. It's funny that Ron Rivera was coined Riverboat Ron, but it feels like Matt Rule is a hell of a lot more, I don't know, bold, for lack of a better term, than Ron Rivera is. So with that being said, man, I have a different feeling about this season being 3-2 than I do the last go around.
So Kaza, what do you think about it, man?
Well, the biggest thing that I'm seeing from week to week is fixing mistakes from previous weeks. We talked about that last week. I see it again this week. The coaching staff not making the same mistakes. And I guarantee next time the Panthers are up 7 points in the third quarter, we're going to see a lot more than 50 yards of offense. We're not going to see these little hit routes behind the line of scrimmage or running straight up the middle with Alex Arma. I can guarantee we won't see that in that situation. And I think that's been the biggest thing with the Panthers. Some of the things, it's just hard to shore up because you're going to be limited by your talent and personnel. Scoring 2 field goals at the beginning of the game, you got to score touchdowns, but at the same time you got to play with. Sometimes you got to take what the defense gives you. I'd also like to see. Now, let me say this. You guys know I've been a bit of a critic of Teddy Two Gloves this season, but he played probably his best game as a pro this week. And I know
definitely, yeah.
But he played an outstanding game. I would still like to see him better on the deep throws. Yeah. He still can't push the ball downfield. I looked up some stats before the game. There's actually a really, really good stat that I might write an article on if I feel like it, called intended air yards per attempt, in which it shows how far does the ball travel through air before the receiver either catches it or drops it. Teddy Bridgewater is at the bottom of the league in that stat, even though his yards per completion is in the top 5. That means he literally throws short, and guys like Mike Davis are getting a lot of yards. I think that's a very telling stat, because we see it every time Teddy throws deep. It's either an overthrow or the receiver makes a hell of a play, like that one-handed catch by Robbie Anderson. Oh my God! Now,
Yeah, best catch of the season.
That was a pretty good throw by Bridgewater, but when your wide receiver has to make like these spectacular one-handed catches every time you throw deep, that's something I'd like to see Teddy improve on this game. Otherwise, I mean, the Panthers are improving every week. And, also, admittedly, when I saw that Julio Jones was, on the inactive list.
So, man, it was very unfortunate. Very unfortunate, man. God, man, very unfortunate.
Look, prayers up for Julio, man.
Prayers up, man. Get well soon, buddy. Get well soon, man. Hey guys, quick question: do we have the best receiving core in the league, or one of them?
We have the best receiving core the Panthers have had since Moose and Smitty.
Absolutely,
I agree. We probably have the third best receiving core in the NFC South. I'm just gonna be real with you, but the NFC South has a hell of a good receiving cores all over the place. But I say we're top half.
Okay.
I just wish that, like Kaza said, I wish that Teddy would kind of throw it a little deeper. But I mean, Robbie Anderson has probably been the best free agent pickup we've ever had in this franchise history, man.
Absolutely,
he's a complete baller. He I didn't know he was this good, quite frankly.
Let me not to toot my own horn, but I knew he was this good, and for one simple reason. I don't know if you guys remember a game where we actually played the Jets a few seasons ago, and I don't remember the exact season off the top of my head. Robbie Anderson, he tore us up, man. And I don't know if you guys remember, he was on the sideline during the game, looking at the camera saying, "I am a Pro Bowler. Somebody please select me to the Pro Bowl because I know I'm good." He didn't say this part, but it's like, I play for this trash team, but I'm pretty damn good. You know what I'm saying? But with all that being said, man, I mean, he's proven his worth, man. He may be the offensive MVP so far. Like you said, the best free agent pickup we've ever had. I think he's making DJ Moore a better player. DJ Moore, who had a great game today, who had a big touchdown, in the first half. I look, man, sign me up. I need to go get me a Robbie Anderson jersey. I might be too big for it right now, but I gotta have it, man.
Hey, man, guys, look, I gotta say this. If we would have lost the game today, Teddy Bridgewater would have had nightmares. DJ Moore had a surefire touchdown.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Yeah.
On that one play. I was like, Teddy, look the other way. Look the other way.
Well, to be fair, I mean, it was a heavy blitz. But to me, that's something that, every NFL quarterback knows. You throw into the blitz.
Yeah.
Blitz coming on the left side. Obviously, there's going to be somebody open on the left side. And I'm going to maybe throw a little bit of, shade towards Joe Brady on that. You got to have your hot route. That wasn't a hot route. DJ Moore was about 20 yards downfield, actually. The hot route was on the right side. And it was so I'll give Teddy a little bit of he played a good enough game. I'll let that slide.
Let that one slide. Yeah.
Guys, I want to share a huge concern with you guys, and specifically, it is run defense. We are not in the Panthers locker room. We do not have intel, but I am almost positive. I would put down some money that Todd Gurley was not a huge part of the defensive game plan when it comes to concerns. Todd Gurley, 14 carries, 121 yards. Look, man, Todd Gurley, he's seen his day. He's still a very serviceable running back. He's still a good player. I don't want to shade him too hard, but nobody expected that. And there was a ton of bad tackling today. Mainly coming from number 52 to here Whitehead. Guys, how big of a concern is the linebacking core in the defense in general?
It's a big concern, man. To me, we only have one competent linebacker, and that's Shaq. Shaq had an awesome game today. But other than that, man, it's great offensive coordinators will be able to expose us for our lack of depth on the linebacking core. It's going to be a long season, man. Then you look at our defensive line, they're a little light on the ass from the outside, so they're always going to try to set that edge against us, man. It's growing pains. It's going to be growing pains this year with the run game.
It's hard to know
before you go, Kaza, it is worth noting that Darius Taylor, the backup middle linebacker, saw action today. But go ahead, Kaza.
Now, it's hard knowing where the deficiency is on the defense. The Panthers are actually a top 10 passing defense this year.
Yep.
Raise your hand if you thought that was going to be the case.
Right,
Nobody.
right.
There should be no hands raised. So clearly we're doing something right. I just don't know what it is. Linebacker is a deficiency. We said that before the beginning of the season. If you look at our front four, I felt like they played well today. They played well last week. Brian Burns, who's in concussion protocol, by the way, had another really good game. We saw K. Short and Derek Brown. They were able to push the pocket. They made things uncomfortable for Matt Ryan. But when it came to the running game, once Todd Gurley was able to get past that first level, there was like no resistance there.
Right.
It's clear
linebackers are able to shed those blocks.
Exactly, yeah. It's clear that's where the deficiency is. I was kind of surprised. Now, Julio Jones did not play, but I felt like the secondary played pretty good. Jeremy Chinn's always in position, it seems like. And I don't feel like our DBs are – I didn't feel like they were, like, terrible. Granted, they're not, like, superstars or whatever, but – they did a good enough job with the front four pressuring Matt Ryan to make plays. Justin Burris, huge play, really
huge play. Yeah, absolutely.
A makeup play because he didn't fall on the fumble. He tried to scoop it. He made up for that with a huge interception at the end of the game. So it's like, the defense is – if they can shore up the run defense, they'll be solid. They'll be solid enough. And we say it every week. Shaq Thompson has to do more. I know he led the team in tackles this week. However, that's a deceiving stat. He led the team in total tackles, but he only had 3 solo tackles. Jeremy Chinn led the team in solo tackles with 9 this week. So Shaq's he's gotta be Luke. I don't know. He's gonna say, "Well, I'm not Luke. I'm Shaq." Okay, fair enough. But hey.
He has to do his best. He has to do his best Luke impression, basically.
Yeah, he got to do something because Todd Gurley looked like old Todd Gurley.
Yeah, he looked like MVP Todd Gurley today, man. And guys, I don't know if there's really an answer for this question, but what do you think happened in the second half that allowed us to ignore Calvin Ridley? Because that's exactly what it seemed like. It seemed like we just stopped guarding the guy. What was it? Is there any explanation behind that?
I think Matt had a little more time to throw the ball. Burns is out of the game. He just had a little more time to set up. And Ridley's a really, really good receiver. And you can't give him that time to get open because he's going to get open eventually. Our DB's made a few gambles as well. Next week we should be able to shore that up. We have the Bears next week. So
right. Well.
They don't have a quarterback like Matt Ryan, so it should be interesting.
That's an understatement.
The Panthers did what I call them out for every week. This is the one mistake they don't fix. Some of these college defensive schemes they keep trying to interject, and they don't work in the NFL. NFL players are too good. You cannot rush 3 down against Matt Ryan. You literally just letting him look at the zones. That's what happened with Calvin Ridley at the beginning of the second half. He's sitting, cover 3, rush 3. He's sitting in the zone, just sitting there.
And Kaiser, to your point, it especially doesn't work when somebody like Brian Burns is out of the game, where you're where you don't have that outside rush coming. Even if you're, quote unquote, rushing 3, you still got Brian Burns coming from the outside, and without him, it just gets that much worse. Yeah. But go ahead.
You're literally giving them free yards. I'd like to see the Panthers just discard. I'd like to see every team discard that. There are times where situationally that defense can work, but generally you want to run max coverage against quarterbacks who don't pass well.
Yeah. Right.
Matt Ryan,
but not Matt Ryan.
But, you give him that kind of time, and essentially the whole field with zones to. He just gets to pick where he wants to.
Pick it apart every time.
Right. The Panthers got to. It's not at that point in the game. You're only up 7 points, and it's always easy for the losing team to make the halftime adjustments. I think that's what we saw. Hopefully, Matt Rule and his guys look at the tape and say, okay, let's cut that out.
Guys, did we let our foot off the gas in the second half? Was this reminiscent of the Ron Rivera days, or did the Falcons make adjustments?
I think the Falcons made adjustments. I think Matt Rule won't really let them take their foot off the gas per se, but they might have gotten a little comfortable on offense. Joe Brady might have got a little cute. The way we ended the game, we should have came out like that in the third quarter. We should have been running the ball instead of trying to throw little screen darts and passes and stuff like that. I mean, we got the clock is our friend. We had to utilize that clock.
Absolutely.
I think they went to the protecting the lead a little too early. You gotta in a division game, you gotta go for the kill shot. You have to. At that point in the game, which especially consider that you had 2 field goals earlier, that should have been touchdowns. I think at that point you say, okay, let's score a touchdown here, and then you make it a 2-score game. Okay, then you can start messing with the clock. But as we saw, I mean, if Justin Burris doesn't intercept that ball, it's a tie ball game, and now now you really have to score, and you'll probably give the Falcons the ball back with the chance to either tie in overtime or win the game. Like I said, I just think that's something I think the Panthers will look at and say, okay, we got to be more aggressive, especially since Teddy Two Gloves was cooking. He was on fire.
Yeah.
Let that man cook, and that was something that we criticized Ron Rivera for in the Cam Newton days. Sometimes Cam would be on fire, and then the coaching staff would just start, running D'Angelo Williams every play. And it's like, what are y'all doing? I see what Cam's doing.
Right.
Yo, Teddy's cooking. At one point, he had 295 yards. And I'm thinking, man, Teddy's going to break 300 yards. He didn't break 300 yards to the middle of the fourth quarter. He went almost a whole quarter, and even then, he only had 308 yards. It's like, dude, this guy is on fire, and you only let him get less than 20 yards over a quarter and a half. Stop that. If Teddy's cooking, let that man cook and let everybody else eat. So
guys, I got a question. Did we get Dan Quinn fired today?
Look, let me tell you something, man. The last tweet I sent out says Dan Quinn might be picking up the white courtesy phone on the way out today. It's kind of hard for me to believe he won't be. And I'm just being honest, man. I mean, there's a lot of people, believe it or not, that touted this Atlanta defense as being a pretty good one coming into the season. And look at what they've done so far. So there doesn't seem to be any excuse for them to not be doing better than they are. With that being said, I think we may see an announcement tomorrow morning, but I could be wrong. Who knows?
Honestly, I think that they keep him for a little longer, man. Like
look. At this point, I want them to keep him longer. Please, by all means, sign him to an extension, please.
No. They need to win. They don't need Trevor. They need to win.
Yeah, right.
I'm not a huge fan of firing coaches before the end of the season. I think you got to evaluate the season as a whole and then make a move. I will say this: if your owner is down on the damn sideline, that's not a good look, bro. Yeah.
Nah, it's not, man.
But to put that in perspective, Mike Smith, he was the coach of the Falcons for 6 years.
Yeah.
The Falcons went 51-21 under his regime. Dan Quinn comes in. So far, almost 6 seasons. They're only 42-37. Now, they do have division title and a Super Bowl appearance, but they also have a history of blowing huge leads. They're like a running meme now. I don't see how he may last to the end of the season, but I think this is it for Dan Quinn coaching the Atlanta Falcons.
I agree.
They have a huge turnaround, and as they tell during the broadcast, no team's ever gone to the playoffs starting 0-5. So, I mean, you didn't even have as many wins as your predecessor, and now your team is a living meme. I think he's gone. Now, if he wants to come be our defensive assistant coach,
come on. Look, man. Look, guys. I was talking to a friend of the show, Danny Thompson, and he called Dan Quinn the white Marvin Lewis. So he doesn't have any faith that he'll get fired.
I said that last week, actually.
That much leeway, actually.
Look, nobody should have that much leeway.
Not really, man. But like I said, guys, for all I care, man, they can sign him to a 2 or 3 year extension for all I care. But man, guys, I want to ask one more question, not specifically related to the Panthers, but I think it's the question worth asking. Is Matt Ryan washed up? Is this it? Did he look old today, or did we just play well, or did we just play him well today? Which one was
it? He's not washed up. Look. I am no means a Matt Ryan or Atlanta Falcon fan, but
you got to respect him.
You got to respect him. That dude isn't washed up. That defense is washed up. That defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. I mean, for the past 4 or 5 years, they failed to put an adequate defense around that explosive offense, and this is what you get.
I think it's a few factors. He's getting old. I mean, now we've seen quarterbacks be able to be productive well into their twilight years. You know, we see it with Tom Brady, kind of Drew Brees. But when Julio Jones is gone, Julio Jones is the heart of the offense for that team. I don't care what anybody says. I can throw Julio Jones. We've seen Julio Jones make just some incredible plays, especially against the Panthers over his career. He's out of the game, and then I just think that it's just a combination of factors. The Atlanta offensive line has never been that great in protecting Matt Ryan, even against the Panthers. That's been the one area where we've always been able to kind of get to Matt Ryan, and I just think he wasn't able to make those big plays that he was able to make in the past to make up for it because Jones ain't gone. I don't think this is like the end for Matt Ryan or anything. You know, he's going to be an Atlanta Falcon for as long as he wants to be, honestly.
All right. Well, moving on, man. Next week we have the Chicago Bears coming to town. Guys, what are your thoughts and predictions on that game?
Our 7,000 COVID-ravaged fans will cheer the Panthers to a 31-21 victory.
Kaiser, what you got?
I think we win 28-21. I think the Bears' record isn't as good as they're not as good as their record indicates. I think that the Panthers are on an uphill trend. I think the Bears are on a downhill trend. They really got lucky against Tampa Bay. They really got incredibly lucky. The Bears, I think, are the number 7 defense in the league. Panthers are number 10, which is crazy. So we're close in that regard, but offensively, I actually trust us a lot more than I trust, Trubisky, Foles, whoever in the Bears roll out.
Yeah, and that was kind of my key call for next week, man. I watched that game Thursday night, man. There was a lot of bad quarterbacking going on, and even with Tom Brady, man. Now I know it's a Thursday night game. Thursday night games are usually fool's gold. They're usually sloppy as it is. But at the same time, I don't think the Bears have did anything overly impressive this season. So with that being said, man, I'm gonna pick us in a low scoring affair. A relatively low scoring affair, I should say. I'm going to pick us 21-18. I think we'll win it in the close game, man. And hopefully, I will not be wrong next week because I've been wrong the last 2 weeks. So I need to kind of reconcile my record here, man. I don't really like that, man. Last thing for the Panthers and Falcons game, man. Offensive MVP. Who wants to go take this one first?
I think Mike Davis. Mike Davis. We all have to say I mean, it's. No other person. Mike Davis.
Maybe Robbie Anderson.
Maybe the offensive line.
Maybe offensive line, yeah.
The offensive line is a creative answer, but man, I'm sorry. I got to go Mike Davis, man, because here's one stat that nobody's going to look at, man. 9 receptions for 60 yards. Now, we're going to talk about his rushing. But look, man, Mike Davis, go ahead.
He's doing all the Christian McCaffrey stuff, right? Catching balls
he
out
is.
the back. I mean, he's the only thing, and here's the difference between those two guys, is that Christian McCaffrey, you can give him the ball in space, and he'll make the guy miss and pick up yards. Mike Davis ain't doing that. Mike Davis, you're just going to give him the ball. They're going to meet, and whatever happens. That's the difference in those guys. But, man, Mike Davis, if you're CMC, you got to be glad what you're seeing, because then you know, they ain't going to run me into the ground. And the Panthers can go back and look at what New Orleans was able to do with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara a few years ago that led them to the NFC Championship game. When you have a dual back system like that, you don't even have to have them both in the game at the same time. But when you have that change, it's something that we all wanted them to do with C.J. Anderson the season before last, and they did not. Maybe Matt Rule says, okay, we're going to do this with Mike Davis and CMC. We'll see.
Maybe CMC will restructure that contract.
Man, you stop that, Rodney. Right. So look, man, I don't want to go too long because we're running out of time on this segment, man. But I saw something on social media. It said that the Panthers are a better offense without Christian McCaffrey. Now, me personally, I said, you're going a little too far with that. But let me kind of now you may agree, but I want to say one thing. You are not going to tell me that when Christian McCaffrey comes back, there's nobody that's not excited about this 2-back system and having both of those guys instead of one of those guys.
When
you agree or disagree?
That's just such a hot. I was in that thread, by the way, and that thread was before the Panthers only scored or only had 50 yards in a quarter. So I'm just saying, when your team can only muster 2 field goals against a banged up Atlanta Falcons defense, and you get the ball first, then you can't sit here and tell me our offense is better. Teams ain't game planning from Mike Davis and Reggie Bonifant. They're not. When Christian McCaffrey's out there on the field, defensive coordinators are like, crap, what do? You have to account for him. You could just have Christian McCaffrey out there not doing anything, not just sitting out there, and defense still has to account for him. That's why.
No, I'm with you, man. At the very least, Christian McCaffrey could just be a decoy and affect your offense. So, no, I'm with you on that, man.
Man, look, man, when Christian McCaffrey comes back, I got 16 million reasons why.
Oh, stop it.
He's going to get 80% of the touches.
So, moving on.
Get 80% of the touches.
Moving on. Defensive MVP. Do you guys have one this week?
Marquise Haynes. He had a sack, tackle for loss. I don't know. Every week the defense there's never like one player who just like, man, that guy dominates. I mean, Jeremy always puts on a solid performance. Brian Burns had another good week, 4 tackles, a sack, forced fumble. Justin Burns had the big interception. It's always by committee, guys. Defense is doing things, so it's hard to pick one. One guy.
Rodney, what you got?
I'm gonna go Shaq Thompson. He was active. He was around the ball. He was active. He's the leader of the defense. Fortunately or unfortunately, depends on how you feel. And he was there.
Guys, I'm going to take the easy way out. My answer is going to anger everybody. I'm going Justin Burris. He made the most important play that iced the game and sealed the game. Is that fair? Probably not. But hey, man, I think it was the most valuable play. Therefore, he wins my defensive MVP. So there you have it, man. Guys, moving on and segueing into the other major sport going on right now, the NBA Finals. The mighty Los Angeles Lakers are finally looking at a 3-2 series. Everybody thought the series would end Friday night, including me. Jimmy Butler and LeBron James had an absolute war going on in the fourth quarter. Very, very entertaining game, man. But the hot topic is for the week, and y'all know what's coming. Does LeBron James, does he shoot the ball, or did he make the right play? Kaz, I want you to go first because you had something to say about this before the show.
Okay, so let's go back 2 seasons. Golden State, Cleveland, NBA Final. Golden State holds a very small lead in a close game 5, pivotal game. Cleveland wins that game. It's a series. Kevin Durant brings the ball up court. Who comes out to face him on the wing? LeBron James. What does Kevin Durant do? He pulls
up in his face.
His eye. Game over. The season before that, same situation. Michael Jordan, game 6, Utah Jazz. We all know the shot, the pose. Y'all get where I'm coming at here? When the game is on the line and you have an ISO situation, that's your time to shine. LeBron James shouldn't have taken the shot in the situation he was in because he had like 5 dudes around him. Yeah, in that situation, you kick out to the open 3 shooter. But it should have never got to that. LeBron James made up in his mind because he brought the ball up court. He was the one, the ball was in his hands. He brought it up court. He brought it all the way up to the 3-point line. He had an ISO situation, and he decided to drive the basketball and kick out to the open guy if the double or triple team came. And it didn't work. Why wouldn't you? You got an ISO situation. You're LeBron James. You're the best basketball player in the world. Who can match up ISO one-on-one with LeBron James in the league today? Very, very few people, if anybody can. I just feel like in that situation, especially you rocking the black Lakers jersey, you rocking the Mamba jersey, you have to take over at that time. You have to. I would rather have LeBron James pull up. By the way, LeBron James was 6 for 9 from 3-point land that game. I'd rather LeBron James do his best Kevin Durant impression, pull up on the ISO, drain the 3, be up by 2 with 9 seconds left, and go home with a 4th championship, or miss and then say, hey, you know what? I tried. Because you end up losing anyway, right? You really want to put the game in Danny Green's hands when you're the one that brings the ball up the court? That's all I'm saying. That's my Stephen A. Smith rant.
Rodney, what you got, man? Try to follow that, Rodney.
Looking at stats, Kazi, you can be a stats guy. Danny Green is 4th all time in NBA Finals 3-point percentage. Danny Green is wide open. LeBron is trying to throw the defense to him to get statistically one of the best 3-point shooters in finals history ever, the shot. He made the right play. I am not a LeBron fan. I'm defending LeBron on this. I have no problem with what he did. The most egregious thing that happened was Markieff Morris threw that shit out of bounds.
It seems like people are forgetting that part, but go ahead, man.
Forgetting that part, but other than that, I have no problem with Danny Green taking that shot.
I don't have a problem with LeBron passing to Danny Green because at that point, yeah, he was open and there was like a triple team on LeBron James. Of course, you're going to make the better basketball play. I'm just saying it should have never got to the point where LeBron allowed himself to be triple teamed. You bring the ball up court, but the ball is in your hands because you are the best player on the team. I just feel
Kaiser. Listen, let's go back to 1993. The Bulls versus the Suns. Michael's like, hey, you're going to be open, John Paxson. He drove the ball. The guys were coming toward him. Kicked it to Paxson. Trusting his teammates. Paxson hit that shot.
Hey, Rodney, I'm glad you brought that up. Hey, let me go, guys. Y'all done had the time. I got to go now. All right, I'm glad you brought that up, Rodney, about Michael Jordan passing the ball to his teammates. And I think what we're seeing here is a difference maybe in, I don't know, mentality maybe. Now, here's the key difference between LeBron James and Michael Jordan. I thoroughly believe if Phil Jackson is not Michael Jordan's coach, Michael Jordan shoots the ball over 5 people if it came down to it. I thoroughly believe that. I thoroughly believe that Phil Jackson had the respect of Michael Jordan enough to. And by the way, guys, there's a clip out there somewhere. Maybe it even came on The Last Dance. But there's some clip out there where you can see Phil Jackson telling Michael Jordan, "Hey, man, you might want to look out for Steve Kerr. You might want to look out for Sean Paxson." This is Phil Jackson talking, okay? So, again, it's a difference in mentality. Now, LeBron James, I think he is wired to quote unquote make the best basketball play. We've seen in the past he had an all-star game where he passed up a shot that could have won the game. Now, this is an all-star game, not a big deal, but more so just speaking of the mentality of LeBron James. I just think he is wired to make the right basketball play. Now, Kaza, you make an excellent point. I don't know why LeBron James drives to the hole knowing that they're going to pack the lane and make him pass the ball. He has to know that's going to happen, especially considering how hot he was in the fourth quarter. Now, was that by design? That's a fair question. So a question you could ask is, did LeBron ever want to shoot the ball? Did he go into that lane thinking to himself, you know what, I really don't want this shot. I want somebody else to take the pressure off of me. That sounds crazy to me. It is a fair question.
I don't think LeBron James was thinking that. LeBron James is one of the best basketball minds, maybe the best on-court basketball mind we've ever seen. I think that let's talk about Jordan in '93. One, that was a premeditated thing. They had talked about that in the timeout previously. Hey, you're going to be open. I'm going to kick you the ball. Michael Jordan knew they would come out and defend him on the wing, which they did. That's why they passed it to him. They weren't going to let Michael Jordan ISO them up on the outside because they knew what was going to happen. They were going to let LeBron James ISO from the wing and just either live or die with LeBron taking a shot, because LeBron is not a good mid-range shooter. He's actually a better three-point shooter than he is a mid-range shooter. And either they thought, okay, LeBron James 6 for 9, he can't keep this up. We'll just let him score and then go back down. Or, we'll take our chances with the pull-up. And if he packs in the lane, if he drives, then we're just going to clobber him in the lane, which is what they did. And at that point, you have no choice but to put the game in someone else's hands. And great point about Danny Green. When Danny Green played for the Spurs, that guy, yeah, he was Robert Horry-esque. But that was 7 years ago. And, 7 years ago. And Danny Green hasn't shot that well in a while. It's just.
You got to trust your teammates, man. You got to trust them.
Now, that's a question I do have. If this scenario happens again, does LeBron James pass the ball to Danny Green the next time?
Absolutely.
If he drives the lane and they pack the lane and he's got to kick out, then, he's got no choice to kick it out to Danny Green or J.R. Smith or whoever's out there. But I'm not sure if LeBron does that. I think maybe next time LeBron pulls up and does what Kevin Durant did to him. That's the difference. Kevin Durant, you think Kevin Durant was like, okay, I'm going to pass to Steph Curry, who is –
Look, and I was about to say, he has Klay Thompson and Steph Curry on his wings.
Kevin Durant, LeBron James come out on him. He brought the ball up court, so LeBron James come out on him and thought, I'm going to shoot it in this guy's face. And that's what he did. And they won 2 championships over LeBron James because of that. LeBron James is not thinking, I'm going to shoot it in this guy's face. That's the problem I have with that play. He's thinking X's and O's. Okay, all right. If I drive,
right, which is my point again, because I just think he's just wired a certain way, and I think people have a problem with that. But my thing is, he's been this way his whole career. He's never been the guy that's like, I'm going to score in your face to win this game. Now, let's be fair. Let's be objective. LeBron James has game winners. He has hit big shots. Let's make sure we're fair about this, because we don't want LeBron fans crying to us and whining to us about how we're not being fair. So let's be fair about that. But to Kaz's point, I always think LeBron James more so wants the easiest way to try to get a basket, whether that's an easy shot he can take or a pass he can make. And I don't think there is any right or wrong with what LeBron James did. Basically, I think the truth is in the middle somewhere. Basically,
yeah.
Now,
I agree with that.
Now, speaking of this game and speaking of the finals, man, we're all talking about LeBron James. He's always the hot rod topic. But why don't we talk about Jimmy Butler? Jimmy Butler, 35 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists. Jimmy Butler was better than LeBron James in the fourth quarter, and LeBron James by no means was bad in the fourth quarter. This was an epic battle that went back to back, man. Why is Jimmy Butler not getting his props, y'all?
Have you seen his hair? I'm just joking. I mean, Jimmy took a lot of reputational hits 2 years ago after he kind of forced his way out of Minnesota. Undeservedly so. I mean, he got the rep of a bad teammate, selfish guy. But all Jimmy wanted to do was challenge his teammates to win, and him and Miami was the perfect marriage. Even if you go back to the start of the playoffs, me and Danny were like, "Look, we can see Miami going to the finals." You guys like, really? I'm like, look, Jimmy's different. Jimmy is different.
Jimmy reminds me of Russell Westbrook in that their teams are better when he doesn't have to share being the alpha dog with anybody else. That was the biggest problem. You trying to tell me that Philly team shouldn't have been in the NBA Finals?
Absolutely.
That team should have been in the finals, right? But for some reason, it didn't work. Now Jimmy Butler goes to a Heat team that people thought might be a six seed, and they might push the Los Angeles Lakers to 7 games. But to that point, who else is the alpha dog on that team? Nobody. That's Jimmy Butler's team. That wasn't his team in Minneapolis. That wasn't his team in Philly. I think that's the big problem. Now he comes to Miami. He's the leader. His style is infectious. He's got this swag that permeates down to everybody else. They see how hard of a worker he is. They follow his lead. I think that's why Miami is a good place for him. I think the worst thing Miami could possibly do, regardless of whether they win the championship or not, is bring another superstar in. That's the worst thing they could do.
Let me say this, Kaza. I think that is heavily depending on the type of personality you bring in. I truly believe, because I don't think Miami turns down an opportunity to bring talent. Because you mean to tell me if Giannis calls Pat Riley like, I'm interested, there's no way Pat Riley hangs up the phone. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you're right. But at the same time, it didn't work on more talented teams with Jimmy Butler. I mean, it didn't work in Philly, which was, that was an insanely talented team. That starting five was like, how are they going to possibly lose, in the playoffs? And they did. Same with Minnesota. Karl Anthony Towns and Jimmy Butler. I mean, who do you pair Jimmy Butler with that doesn't upset the apple cart? You essentially have to find a passive superstar, which does such a thing exist in the NBA? Essentially, Miami can do well by continuing to develop their talent and let them become star talent under Jimmy Butler. I mean, it got you all the way to the finals. I think it could have been very far.
I'm gonna make a sort of a weird parallel with that, because remember how upset we all were when Dave Gettleman let go of Steve Smith. And it's crazy to say that he let go of Steve Smith for the exact reasons we're talking about, not wanting 2 alpha dogs in the locker room. And needless to say, it kind of worked out for us. So I get it, man. But at the same time, I don't know if Giannis or whoever, like not just Giannis, but I don't think that's going to stop. Right. Paul George, man.
Paul George can work. Paul George can work.
Yeah, we saw how he is playing with Westbrook and Kawhi. I could see Paul George in Miami.
Look, man. Everyone gives this guy props, man. And let me also add to this as well, man. Eric Spoelstra, man. That dude is a savant when it comes to coaching, man. I hate the Heat with all my heart and soul, man. But you gotta respect you got to give respect where respect is due, man. Kendrick Nunn, who has struggled all playoffs, really, man, who has kind of found his way the last two games. He had 14 points of Friday night, man. So that's a big contribution from him. One thing I like about Eric Spoelstra is that we can make our own parallel here in Charlotte with James Borrego. I'm going somewhere with this. Bear with me. Kelly Olynyk in game 3, I believe, or game 4, I believe, played some big minutes, actually had a good game, contributed a lot in that game. He didn't even play Friday night. And I like and I'm mentioning that because Eric Spoelstra does what he needs to do as he sees fit. James Borrego does some similar things here in Charlotte that we see a lot. But yet some of our fans don't seem to appreciate what James Borrego does for us, man. So with all that being said, guys, can the Charlotte Hornets, can we possibly be a Miami Heat in the future?
No.
Yes, but so Miami is Miami because they've been able to get superstar talent. You know, back in the 90s, they were able to steal Alonzo Mourning away from us. Then they drafted Dwayne Wade, and then Shaq came over. They won a championship. So they had this championship pedigree. 2 years after they win the championship, they get freaking LeBron James, who brings along Chris Bosh from Toronto. So they were able to build this championship pedigree already, and that makes it kind of easier to get talent to come play for you. You don't get Jimmy Butler to come play for you if you didn't have the pedigree that Dwayne Wade and Shaq and LeBron and Chris Bosh had already built. That's the problem in Charlotte. And that we'll talk about that just a little bit when we talk about what John Sally said about Michael Jordan. But the problem is that it's hard for us to get talent to come play for Charlotte because we haven't even had a little bit of success. Plus, we're not a destination like Miami is. We're Charlotte. We're not South Beach.
Yeah, you actually got to pay taxes. You actually got to pay taxes in North Carolina. So yeah,
right. That's always going to be something that we struggle with. From an X's and O's standpoint, talent standpoint, yeah, we can get guys like Tyler Hero and Bam. I'm already seeing it. I don't know if our fans don't see it or not, but Mitch has done very, very, very good very well with Miles, PJ, and Devontae, and then the Martin twins. So
yeah. So Rodney, what you got?
The biggest thing about Miami, man, destination matters. Miami's in Florida, man. Miami is an international city. Charlotte's a good city, but Charlotte will never be Miami. We have to look at places like Indiana. Indiana has done similar things to Miami as far as building their talent up and having homegrown talent and making the right decisions. Miami can't get it. I mean, Indiana can't get over that hump because they're in Indiana. In the NBA, destinations still matter. There's a reason why LeBron went to LA. There's a reason why Kawhi went back to LA. Charlotte, if Charlotte needs to kind of model themselves after the Spurs, we need more continuity. Are
we building continuity right now? Do you think we're doing a good job of that in the moment?
Right now, yes, but my thing is, man, Mitch is an older guy, and who replaces Mitch? Who is Mitch grooming to take over for him?
Good question.
And those are critical questions that we have. Like, okay, Mitch has the respect of Michael Jordan. Does the next guy have that same respect? Because if that next guy does not have the same respect, we're back into the stuff that we were in before.
God help us all if that happens.
And so, I mean, Miami's in Miami. Miami has had Pat Riley since the 90s. But Miami has been making great decisions since the 90s. It's a culture that we don't have yet. And it's based on that continuity.
Are we starting to build the culture now? Because before you answer that, I asked that question for a reason. James Borrego was I forgot who he was doing the interview with, man, but he had some rave reviews about what he's seen very early. I know it's early as hell, like we haven't even thought about playing games yet, but just in the mini camps, man, James Borrego has been raving about the changing culture he is seeing already. Now, I mean, it sounds like a good sign. So, does that change your answer any?
Like I said, I mean, we can have a good culture in the short term, but I'm looking more long term.
Gotcha.
Pat Riley came into Miami as the head coach, and he transitioned his way into leadership, GM, and everything else. What is our succession plan? Like, what's the end goal? And so,
gotcha.
That's what I'm more so worried about here.
All right, so we gotta wrap this portion up for that, man. Real quick, y'all. Predictions for tonight: Heat or the Lakers? Who wins tonight?
Lakers.
I think the Heat make it 7. I think they lose in Game 7, but I think they win tonight. Actually.
Cool, man. All right, guys. We don't have a lot of time to get to this topic, but we want to briefly talk about John Sally and the comments he made regarding Michael Jordan and his new NASCAR venture. John Sally says that Michael Jordan will have an easier path to be successful and make more money in NASCAR than he does with the Charlotte Hornets. Who wants to take this one first?
I agree. I
disagree. It's only because NASCAR is very niche. It's only a United States thing. It is the biggest motorsport in the United States, but even within the United States, it's still a niche sport, niche demographic. Motorsports is super, super expensive. You have to dump a lot of money into it just to be even a little bit competitive. And the problem is that there's not that much revenue that comes back, especially now with COVID. We've seen a decline in all sports, but even NASCAR. Whereas Michael Jordan bought the Bobcats for anywhere from 30 to 50 million, depending on who you hear from. And now they're worth $2 billion. Michael Jordan himself is worth $1 billion. Michael Jordan can make money from the Hornets, and they're not even a playoff team. So whereas in NASCAR, it's going to be a lot. That's why you see NASCAR teams come and go all the time. Yeah, Michael Jordan is not even, the first black NASCAR owner we've seen a few black NASCAR owners. They come in, they find that it's difficult to win. It's difficult to get that support. Now, Michael Jordan does have an advantage that he's Michael Jordan. So there's going to be black people that dip their toe into NASCAR, and they're going to gain a few more fans that way. But I love Bubba Wallace, and I'll be the first to buy his jacket when it comes out, but he's not exactly an elite tier driver. It's going to be very, very hard for Michael Jordan to find an immediate success in NASCAR. It's going to be the same challenges as the NBA. Now, from a financial standpoint, he'll continue to make more money in the NBA just because it's the NBA.
Now, I wanted to say this, man. I am far from the NASCAR expert, and I'm glad, Kaiser, that you are closer to the sport than me and Rodney are. I will say this, man. I know Michael Jordan has a business manager who basically tells him what's a good investment versus a bad investment. Regardless of what you think about Michael Jordan as an owner, you cannot argue or debate the fact that he has made his money back, like Kaiser just mentioned. Yeah. With that being said, being Michael, looking at Michael Jordan's track record of making money from his initial investments, it looks all good from here. And that's my non-expert opinion on that, man. Kaiser, like you said, man, it looks like he has to dump a lot of money just to get that back and to be successful. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure he's been advised that he's good to go when it comes to that. So I would just defer to that point, man, quite honestly, man. Now, one thing that concerns me a bit about him, dipping his toes in the NASCAR, and I'm pretty sure it'll go the same. I'm almost positive it will go the same way. If Bubba Wallace struggles, doesn't win any races, whatever, who the blame is going to go towards, because people who don't know any better are going to look at low-hanging fruit and look at the most popular guy and just blame him for everything that goes wrong. I'm not sure he cares or not, but I'm sure that's how it's going to go, man. Guys, we have reached the end of the show. Shout outs or shout ats? What you got?
I'll go first.
Okay,
you go. So I want to give a shout at to Michael Thomas. He is suspended for Monday night's game. He fought one of his teammates. He's acting like Steve Smith. And I just want to give a shout out. I just want to give a shout out to my family, man. Last Saturday, my cousin, my cousin, he jumped in the water to save the life of a 2-year-old child, and in the process, he lost his life Thursday morning. He was 34 years old. We kind of grew up together up until probably about middle school, whatever. I moved away, he moved away. Just kind of lost touch and stuff like that. I just want to just kind of say prayers for his 6 children. He has 6 children, his mother, and just kind of pray for them, and just kind of remember, man, just never be too busy for family.
No doubt.
They're your first homies that got your back. Never be too busy for your family, man. I'll always set out time for them, check up on them. That's it.
Man, my condolences to you, bro. Kaza, what you got, man?
Staying on the topic of Michael Jordan, I'm going to give him a shout out as well as the NBA. He's part of a 8-person NBA Foundation board. They pledged to contribute $300 million to economically empowering Black communities through education and career advancement resources. This is another one of those things that Michael Jordan has always done in silence and was criticized for not doing things like this, even though he was doing things like this. So this is one of those things now that it's publicized. I think it's a good thing. The NBA has always shown that they're the most progressive of all the professional sports leagues. This is just another good move that they're doing to ensure the progression of their main economic fan base. They know who their main demographic is. So props to them and props to Michael Jordan for being a part of that.
No doubt, man. I only have one shout out this week. I wanted to shout out Vashti from Carolina Blitz. Man, thank you so much for inviting me to co-host your brand new radio show that will air weekly on ESPN 730 every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. I had the honor of being the first co-host for her new venture, man. It was so much fun, y'all. The next time this happens, all 3 of us got to be there next time, man. It's so much fun, man. Shout out to her with her new venture, man. I wish her nothing but success, man. Hopefully, you will hear me on the radio again. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Hopefully, you'll hear all 3 of us on the radio someday. Hint, hint, wink, wink. But again, had a lot of fun, man. Shout out to Vashti. Shout out to Carolina Blitz, man. Y'all make sure y'all go follow her on all social media platforms as well, man. Guys, another week in the books. Next week, we will be back celebrating a Panthers victory over the Chicago Bears. It is fun as always, brothers. Till the next time, y'all.
Peace out, y'all.